Hi folks, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you today how to do our 2-layer Swarovski flower bracelet. This one here is really bright, kind of summery colors. I'm going to be using some Christmas colors to show you how you can make them look into poinsettias. So you can use different colors of crystals, and I haven't seen one that is actually unattractive because the crystals are really great. We're using 4mm Swarovski crystals, some 11/0 seed beads, a clasp, and it's your choice whether or not you want to use fishing line or Wildfire beading thread. In addition to that, you'll need 2 needles. If you're using the fishing line, the Supplemex, you're going to need wide-eye needles. If you're using the Wildfire thread, which is easier to learn with, you are going to use size 10 or 11 English beading needles. The way that this bracelet is made is it's made with 1 row, making your bottom, and then it's going to come back and we're going to add the little flowers that are on the top. For demonstration's sake, I'm just going to make it about 3 flowers long. That way you can see the whole thing in the screen, how you come back and forth. So to start out, I've pre-threaded my needles, and I have 2 needles on the ends of my thread. If you are doing the entire bracelet, you're going to want to start out with a whole wingspan of thread, about 5.5 to 6 feet of thread. The first thing I'm going to do is you can either use a wire protector or go right onto your clasp. I'm going to add my clasp, and I'm going to let that drop down to the middle of my thread. On each side of my thread, I'm going to add 2 seed beads. So 2 to the left needle, 2 to the right needle, and I'm going to let them drop down next to that lobster clasp. After that, I'm going to put my needles together, and I'm going to take one of my crystal color beads, which is going to be my oddball color, because generally speaking, you're going to use 3 colors of crystals. You can use 2 colors, you can use 1 color, it's kind of up to you. But I'm going to stick my needles through that crystal bead in the same direction. So I'm putting a crystal on, 1 needle, and then the other needle. And that's going to bring the threads together here at the end and just make a nice little ending for your clasp. I'm going to separate the needles here. And on each needle now, I'm going to add another one of my crystals, followed by an 11/0 seed bead. So the crystal colored crystals go on each needle, followed by that 11/0 seed bead. And I'm using galvanized gold for my seed bead colors. So far we've put on 3 of our crystals. 1 that's sharing threads and 2 that are separated. We're going to start our little O's now, I call them. So when I flip over and look at the back of the bracelet, the O's here are the pink, and the flower point is the yellow. The flower point here we'll be doing after the fact of building all of these crystal O's. So I have my crystal color on, and they're separated, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my green beads. The first green bead that I put on, I'm going to put my needle's going from the right side towards the left, and then my other needle is going from the left towards the right, crossing through that crystal. I'm going to pull that down nice and tight, and that is going to be my first little section that I'm crisscrossing through. After that first bead that you cross through, you're going to add 2 more crystals on each needle, also of the green. 2 on each, and let them drop down next to that crystal that you just shared. After this, we're going to be repeating our step that we did with the first green crystal. We're going to take the crystal and go in from left to right and right from left, crisscrossing our threads in the middle. We're going to pull that tight, and that's going to get our first little crystal O. After each crystal O, we're going to separate our flowers with an alternating color bead, and I'm going to use the crystal color. So here are the greens. I'm going to put on a seed bead, a crystal, and a seed bead on each of my needles and let them drop down to that last green crystal that I've put on. So seed bead, crystal, seed bead. After this, I'm going to get ready to do another O section. And to do that, I'm going to start like I did previously, where I'm taking my green bead and I'm going to go from left to right, and then also from right to left, crossing through that 4mm crystal. Again, 2 beads go on each needle. 2 on the left and 2 on the right. After that, I'm going to crisscross my threads through another crystal. From right to left, left to right. And pull tight. I'm going to continue that pattern, crisscrossing through, adding 2, crisscrossing through the whole length of my bracelet to get the bottom base of my O's there. So I've done my 3 center O's here, and like I said, I'm going to do that so it stays in the frame of the shot so you can see how it's going. But generally speaking, you're going to have about 9 to 11 O's depending on the size of your wrist. And that's going to depend on, again, how large you want it to be. For the bottom section, for the O's, however long you want it to be and however many flower sections, you are using 6 at a flower for the base color. So you're using 6 beads per flower for the base color. After I'm done making my last O, I'm going to attach my clasp to the end. I have put on my right needle a seed bead, a crystal, and then on the left needle, I'm going to do the same, a seed bead and then a crystal. I'm repeating the look of the start. After that, I'm going to share a crystal going on my needle, and my threads, instead of crossing through this bead, are going to go in the same direction. That's going to get those nice and tight there, and that's going to get that whole bracelet length to kind of mimic itself. Taking the needles together, I'm going to add 2 seed beads going through both needles. So you're going to have to push it down a little bit and then take that other needle through it. Next, I'm going to add the other side of my clasp, and that's just going to be my loop end, onto both needles as well. And then 2 more seed beads. What this does is this reinforces the clasp, so that way you have 2 pieces of thread going through the clasp rather than just 1. I'm going to pull this nice and tight then. And I'm going to take the needles, making sure that loop just kind of hangs out up there. I'm going to take these 2 needles then, and I'm going to go back through that last 4mm crystal that I put on, going towards the start of the bracelet. I'm going to do it with one needle and then with the other. I'm going to pull tight, and that loop is going to appear. That's going to match the first side of my clasp. After this, I'm going to separate my needles. So I have one that's on the right and one that's on the left. I'm going to hold this laterally again, that way you can see it. And the needle that's on the right-hand side is going to go through the crystal on the right, through the seed bead on the right, and then cross through the first bead in your first O set. The needle that is on the left is going to do the same thing on the left side. It's going to go through the crystal, through the seed bead, and then cross through that first bead in the O set from left to right. What this is going to do is get our needles so that they're coming out. One is on the left-hand side, one is on the right-hand side of our flower. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the top of our flower. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be putting on 4 4mm Swarovskis as well as 1 seed bead. My needle that's on the right, I'm going to pick up one of my 4mm, needle on the left, one of the 4mm. I'm going to let them drop down so they're sitting right on top of my O. I'm going to create a crisscross just like I've been doing on the base set, but this time I'm going to use an 11-0 seed bead. I put the 11-0 seed bead on from right to left, from left to right, crossing my thread in the middle of the seed bead. On the right needle now, I will stick another one of my Swarovski beads and one on the left needle. This is going to get that X formation that you're looking to start to do your flowers. In order to secure the flower here to the top, I'm going to go through the second of the O's up on the opposite side. So I'm going through that second bead that we crisscrossed through originally, and I'm going from left to right and right to left. And when you pull tight, that flower will sit just right on top of that little poinsettia base. My needle that's on the right, I'm going to go through the seed bead, the crystal, the seed bead, through the first of the O. The needle that's on the left, I'm going to do the same thing with on the left-hand side. So again, what I'm doing is going through my seed bead, my crystal, my seed bead, and then I'm crossing through that first bead of the O, so that way my needles are coming out on separate sides. When I'm here, this is when I get to do my flowered section again, and my little poinsettia section. So I'm going to add a crystal on each needle. And then what I'm going to do is crisscross through an 11O seed bead. So I'm crisscrossing through an 11O seed bead. One needle going from left to right, one going from right to left. Pulling tight. And that gets me that first part of my flower. Again, another crystal goes on each side. One on the right, and then one on the left as well. After I put the one on the right and one on the left, I'm going to cross through the second crisscross bead of the O. And we're going to continue this pattern the whole way to the end of the bracelet. So I have one more O to do to lay my flower on top, and then I'll show you how we end it and done my last little crisscross set here. And what I'm going to do is let the needle that's on the left stay to the left. The needle that's on the right, I'm going to retrace my entire start of my bracelet. I'm going to go up the seed bead through the first crystal on this side, through this crystal here that's right before the clasp. I'm going to go through the seed beads again, through the clasp, back down the other side. So basically I'm reinforcing this whole clasp, and back down the other side of crystal as well. What that's going to do is that's going to finish my threads right next to one another. I'm going to take the needles off my threads and I'm going to tie 2 knots. A little dab of glue, and then you're completely done with your bracelet. Again, you can do these in any colors. You can check out our website and our Facebook page for some other ideas as far as different colors to use, different designs to do. And this is our 2-layer Swarovski flower bracelet. Hopefully you get a chance to stop in one of our stores, take a class, and enjoy this kind of timeless bracelet. Thanks a lot for watching.